Hi, Coach Mike here, and I'm with
Scott from Newsest.
Coach Scott, in fact. So, Scott, it's been a while since we did one of these.
Yeah, it's been almost an entire year and a half.
Yeah, so back in the trade days, we had our podcast, and really we wanted to get together and just talk about what we see is going on. There's no end of people making comments and commentary right now, but I'd like to take an athlete's perspective on this time and really talk about how we view it as guys that have coached and guys that have coached a lot of athletes, and also between our two businesses we have a lot of ambassadors out there who are really good weekend warriors and elite racers. So I kind of wanted to open it up and talk about what our perspective is on this time, and how would you best describe the limitations of what's going on now from a physical activity point of view?
Yeah, I think the physical activity side, of course, you're restricted. There's a lot of restrictions about being at home, and anyone who's in triathlon, that pretty much takes swimming off the table unless you have an endless pool. So there's a lot of limitations there. Also, there's a lot of monotony by training at home, even if you're on a wind trainer or a treadmill.
Yeah.
And that can be fatiguing in its own way.
Yeah.
But hey, in Europe, most of the guys that ride the Tour de France, often when they're young,
Yeah.
they spend the entire winter training on a wind trainer.
Yes.
So you can get a lot done. Doesn't mean say you have to stop fully, but you got to cut yourself a break.
Yeah. And what's made wind trainers a little more bearable these days, the advent of the more modern wind trainers, and of course all the social platforms to support the help everyone get over the boredom factor. Now, let me say, some of the people that are watching this video will be completely locked down, and that's the folks in New Zealand. So hi to our friends out in New Zealand, and we know that you're pretty much locked down. So a wind trainer, if you are wanting to do some bike sessions, then a wind trainer is going to be it, or equivalent. Really, effectively in Singapore, we're still able to go out. The government's asking everyone to exercise social distancing. And social distancing, in my view, on a bike is no more than two riders, and only riding side by side. The reason why is at 30 kilometres an hour, so the 1 to 2 metre gap that everyone has been asked to maintain is effectively 10 metres on a bike because of drafting. So in other words, you're sharing the air, as we all know about drafting. In the same sense, we're sharing the same healthy or unhealthy air as someone that's 10 metres in front of us. So I think that a safe bunch size is no more than two people, and riding side by side rather than drafting, I believe would be a good policy. And,
better idea.
Yeah, and otherwise, I mean, look, the other thing is, Scott, if you have a chance to get outside into the sun, vitamin D is clearly really important at this time.
Yeah, it seems a lot of the evidence coming out of America, they're doing a lot of vitamin C hyperdosing on drips. You're not allowed that in Singapore at the moment. It's restricted.
Yep.
So a lot of vitamin C, and like you said, vitamin D in the sun. So when the sun's low in the sky, you want to get out there and get those sun's rays. You don't want to be out there when the sun is high in the sky. Different sort of radiation and different effect on the body.
Right, so dawn and dusk.
Dawn and dusk.
Dawn and dusk, it is, yeah. So I'm gonna call this essentially a winter season.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, let's face it, we all need to face the fact that there isn't going to be any racing anytime soon, and so treat this as a winter season. So Scott, let's discuss the sort of things that you would do in a winter season. First of all, are you aiming for peak fitness right now?
Absolutely not.
Right. So what are you trying to do?
Well, I believe that a lot of it is about, there's a physical side and then there's the mental side. So for me, the off season was always about making sure you bring your mental clarity back. You're doing something different from the norm. So often as triathletes, we don't have time to read books. We don't have time to, you like playing the drums and having hobbies.
My neighbours don't like that.
Exactly. So it's a great time to go and do something that you wouldn't otherwise have time to do. And that really freshens your mind. So then when the season comes back in, you have a lot more bandwidth and you know the reasons why you're doing it. And it becomes very clear and very obvious. That helps with the training. So
let's take some lessons from what we learned from coaching Muslim folks during fasting month.
Yeah.
So during fasting month, it was quite clear that they couldn't train at the same volume as before.
Yeah.
So with the guys that we coached over the years, we got them to work on things that were of more of a technical nature.
Yeah.
Such as spending time in the pool, not necessarily on volume, but on technique.
Swimming drills.
Yeah. So
or a muscle balance assessment. If you haven't had a muscle balance assessment in Singapore, physios are already open, are still open. Or you could go and have a look online about how to do a self-body self-assessment.
Yep.
And find out where your weakness spots are. Then you can use this time to do a lot more conditioning work.
Yeah.
And
how about booking an online appointment with your favourite physio in order to achieve the same thing? And the lesson about the swim technique, that really translates, say, for folks that are in non-swimming sports. Do you have the best flexibility that you could possibly have?
Right.
Because that takes time and effort. And it's really about unraveling those things and setting yourself small goals in order to get through this, because we're all faced with the same obstacle, and this becomes very much the mental skills as an athletic application.
Yeah.
Downside of trying to plug on regardless and try to maintain peak fitness at this time, I think it's creating a rod for your own back, would you say?
I think there's a lot of hidden stress right now in this situation that we have globally. And people that I'm personally looking after now, and people in my chat group, advocate athletes, basically a lot of people are not factoring how much of a mental toll and just a spiritual toll this is having on them. You're dealing with perhaps a financial burden at home. Your business might have slowed down. You may have changes at work. Your spouse may be having difficulties. Your children may be at home. And for some people, it's all of the above.
Yeah.
So these things have to be factored into training, because what you don't want to do is to keep pushing on and immunocompromise yourself, which is essentially, we know we run down our immune systems when you train at a very high volume.
Yeah.
That is the big risk right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, let's be clear about the message and signals we're sending out to other people that may look up to, say, elite athletes. And if everyone sees you carrying on and what it appears to be sort of trying to maintain some sort of peak fitness and conditioning, I think maybe that's an unrealistic expectation for most people who are really trying to just cope with everything that's going on right now.
Definitely.
Yeah. So let's talk about your business has been affected like everyone else because of the slowdown in retail. But what's worked for you, and why do you think it has?
Well, New Zest, I'm pointing to the wrong side, but New Zest is in the business of health and wellness. So the formulations, apart from one side of the company, is all about protein. So people are still training and you still need to eat right. So that's been, people I think have time to focus on their nutrition right now.
Yeah.
They're cooking at home, so maybe the awareness is coming together a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I would say fruit and veggie sales are probably up, supplementation sales are up, and that's a normal side effect.
Yeah.
The Good Green stuff, or it's going to be called Good Green Vitality by the time this gets aired probably, that's a complete immuno support product. So it really helps with every single facet of your body, from skin health to gut health and eye health and total immunity.
Yeah.
And that's been very popular. Even the kids that we recently launched, trying to get the good stuff into the children, and making it fun. So making it taste like a milkshake.
Yeah.
Of course, we're all vegan over at New Zest.
Yeah. No, cool. And look, for our business, we've obviously not been able to be at a lot of events and races that we would normally be at. We've tried to connect to our various athlete communities through our podcast and through spokespeople in different areas and different sports and in different aspects of sports. So that's been quite good. But one area that seems to have resonated is our rental, and we've had a lot of feedback from athletes who have a number of people at home at the moment, and they're all enjoying a rental period with our product, and even keeping their parents calm and happy during this time, because everyone gets a bit stir crazy. Case in point, in our family we have mother and father-in-law with us at the moment, so we've been able to kind of keep them amused by plugging them into cuffs and helping keep them calm and relaxed.
Also, if you've been operating at a very high volume of training and you take this time to back off a lot, you can get restless leg syndrome. I've read a lot of things on different chat groups about people having muscle cramps or waking up unable to sleep.
Yeah.
A product like yours is exactly what they need to be on once or twice a day, just to keep that blood moving, just to keep the flushing happening.
Yeah.
Because you're in a recovery phase.
Yeah, for sure. And we've recently been involved in or the beginnings of some studies before the world changed. But one of the studies that we were involved in is the parasympathetic system, and how intermittent compression affects or switches the parasympathetic system on. So the parasympathetic system, to just summarize that, is the body's healing switch, and most of the evidence of that would be the fact that people fall asleep or feel very sleepy when they do a recovery session. So that's all good for helping people get a good night's sleep, particularly at this time, with the many things that could occupy our minds.
Absolutely.
Any good reading tips for you at this time, and also possibly movie tips? What have you seen that you like?
I think just for me, around right now, I think is a great time to be marketing, and we have a excellent access to free marketing. I'm not sure if the listeners have read the history of Nike, but in every single downturn, Nike has really excelled as a company. And I know it's tough for companies out there. I know that there's a lot of factors they can't control, but we can control. We always say in sport, control the controllables. Marketing is something that you can push out. Yes, we talk about this a lot, being empathetic at this time, and not just trying to not be too overt with products that you might have, or pushing messages that are insensitive. But if you have something that can really help people through this time and add value to people's lives, I think that kind of message is evergreen and can be pushed out at this time.
Cool.
Anything marketing.
So one thing for me that I started to reread, and I consume most of my books through Audibles, and I've been on a pretty good run rate of about one a week in the last year or two, which has been really good. First time in my life I've ever really done that. So Audibles was a platform that really fitted my attention span, I guess.
That one is listening to the book as opposed to reading the book.
Correct.
So this would be ideal for auditory learners, and I do talk to a lot of people about that. If you're going to sit on a wind trainer for 3 hours, read a book at the same time.
Yeah.
You can really get a lot done. So what are you reading right now?
So what I'm rereading is a book called The Obstacle is the Way.
Yeah.
And really it's the basis of it is Stoicism, which really has its links in a lot of different philosophies and religions, However, it kind of distills it down into things that are really useful and facing uncontrollables like we have going on now. So I found that personally to be, just to be something really good to end my day listening to and start my day listening to as well. So I'm trying to start and finish on a good note.
Yeah, I guess one of my big passions is understanding the global financial system. So I'm really enjoying listening to a lot of the macroeconomics discussions that are happening. I find it really interesting about how that works. So that's a passion of mine, something I probably don't get to do so much when I'm fully working all the time, full on.
Yep.
So I guess that's what I'm listening to a lot and learning a lot about economics, especially right now.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, Coach Scott, we're going to continue this series on different topics, things that come to mind, and just short chats. We'll get together regularly, and we also hope to have some of our ambassadors come in and do some, be part of the discussion, part of the dialogue. So we look forward to your comments on our various social platforms that we'll post this on, and also any questions that you might want to ask. And other than that, wash your hands.
Smash the like.
Don't forget to subscribe. We've got to say that. And keep your hands clean. And reach out to people. FaceTime them. Don't message them, FaceTime them. Because I find that sooner or later, one of us is going to have a bad day. And, I had a bit of a bad day yesterday where everything seemed to get on top of me. And I really appreciated a few phone calls from a few people. So it was the voice, it wasn't necessarily the text. So I think pick up the phone, do a FaceTime. Let's use technology, stay connected, and keep everyone moving forward at this time.
Perfect.
Coach Mike.
Coach Scott.
Over and out for now. Bye-bye.
See ya.